Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Pwnery's Week in Review, 5-panel discussion show about, well, geopolitical bullshit for the week. I'm a little bit more relaxed and lackadaisical as usual because this is going to be a slightly abbreviated episode because Pwnery's got shit to do. And as usual, my intro is brought to you, provided by Scott Allen, a very talented drum and bass DJ. So if you like what you see or hear, maybe give him a listen, and maybe you'll get into this kind of stuff too. So as usual, I have my usual panel of suspects, with an addition this time, and I've actually got both hosts of the Early Watch. So good morning to all of you.
Initially when I heard you announce here, I thought you had got laid or something. You sounded so damn chipper. I guess it's the abbreviated show.
Nah, it's what it is I wear very good masks when I need to. So like I know for the last maybe 2 or 3 episodes I've been a little weird, which you guys off air know why, but these are things that need not be discussed. Sorry, I love saying that.
Oh yeah, that's a special love sonnet to Jimmy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, we've got both hosts of the Early Watch, which today almost became a short video of me just saying I'm deferring this week's episode because you guys were getting ready to plan like an anniversary special, right?
We had talked about it, but Jimmy's so fucking unreliable. Couldn't count on him. So.
Wow.
I mean,
our anniversary
we
is not until the 2nd anyway, November 2nd.
Oh, so you got the date
What
picked.
What the fuck were we talking about then?
October 25th is the 10-year anniversary of me leaving Illinois, doofus.
Oh, it was an anniversary.
Yeah, whatever.
I knew it was something. God, until I'm married.
Man, there's no carrot weight that's going to fix y'all's argument. Me, on the other hand. All right, so, well, y'all have got to do your intros. Scott, good morning.
Morning.
So, as per usual, I waffle around too much in the intros, and we really are on a time scale today, so it's only going to be an hour, just so you guys know, but we will pack in the usual content of 5 stories for you. Generally, most of my stories will involve a theme. All 5 will tie into something. I can probably say that 3 or 4 out of the 5 stories today, the theme is goodbye or eulogies, because it's been a pretty hard week for America in general, and not politically. I'm talking like criminally, or just, we have found things or we have seen things or whatever. So it's going to be a little heavy today, but we'll get through them quickly because I'm going to end this week with what I probably think is the most glorious right hook in boxing I've ever seen, and it was done by one bad fucking Marine. So we will end on an explosive note, which is great. Also, I'm just surprised at the fact that I've been doing this shit for 21 weeks because I really didn't think that anybody would watch it, but I'm grateful that you all have, and if you're new to this show or my channel, welcome. Maybe remind other people that I do this now, which I said I never would years ago, but here we are. And do not be surprised within the next 20 minutes if you hear the sounds of a fox hunt in my living room being arranged, because it seems to happen every fucking week. Wow, how's that for not using profanity so far? Jesus.
Well, the fuck you threw in there just made me want to get a hold of Jimmy and say, hey, Jimmy, aren't you a little sorry that we taught these kids this bad language?
Nah, man, I've been working with George for 18 years. I think I uses it like a comma.
I'll give you that one. George has got me beat all to hell.
He's an interesting soul. I'm trying to still figure out what his spirit animal is, and I don't know, man. Like, maybe his spirit animal is just the word.
His spirit animal's mounted on something else.
Yeah. I think it's just an F word on a giant plaque. I don't know. Like, maybe he doesn't have an animal. For those of you who don't know what we're on about, every day on this server, up at the very top, you'll see where it says Lobby for Working Stiffs. And in that channel, The majority of us do get together throughout the week, and we just, it's like gun channels lobbies of old. We just shoot the shit. Most of us are tradesmen doing our job every day, so you'll sometimes be interrupted by the sounds of work. God help it. But yeah, I mean, we talk about this kind of thing every day, and a lot of these guys have met my somewhat extended work family. George is an interesting creature that has seen many things, done many things, and served 2 countries doing it. And he's got a very, I can't call it a cynical approach on life. It's just, it's a
Nihilistic.
yeah,
He
that,
has
he just lives in hyperbole, is what it is.
he
Oh,
has mastered the use of the word fuck
Yeah,
better than anybody I've ever heard in my entire life.
yep. He uses it more than a comma, Jimmy. I'm dead serious. He's found every single way to use it, like noun, pronoun, adverb, prepositional phrase, apostrophe. Like it fits everywhere with this guy. And the
I mean,
funniest
I
thing
might have.
is for years, he used to say this one word, and I always didn't understand what he meant. But then after a while, I just stopped and just kept replaying it back in my head. He can't say the word though. Like, is that for real though? He doesn't say that. He says
so
tough. No,
tough.
he says it like he sees it. He says tough. So like sometimes for years he would say that, and I'm like, he's not making any sense. It's like I don't get it. So I was like, go back to what you do best. And he's like, fuck it. And I'm like, exactly that. Do that. Stay in your lane, bro.
Well, he has certainly made himself a super speedway out of that.
Yes.
Might have
And
even taught me a couple of uses I hadn't thought of.
actually, today he is at the Toyota dealer I bought my Thunderbird from, which is pretty far from here, actually. I had to drive like an hour and a half to find it. But I I made introductions to him with the guy who sold me my car, who happens to be the uncle of the former boxer welterweight champion Miguel Cotto. Which that's why getting my car was easy, because like I was like, do you know? I was like, you kind of look like somebody I know, and he's like, who's that? And I'm like, middleweight champion of the world at one time, welterweight champion of the world one time, Miguel Cotto. And he was like, oh, and he reaches over to his desk and he pulls out this picture. He's like, this guy? So I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna get along great. So I sent him to that guy today because he tried to get a loan because now you're gonna have to just bear with me on this, but paying $60,000 for a Toyota just seems insane to me. And yet, at the end of the day, that's what Forerunners cost with the full off-road package. And I'm just like, the last time I drove a Toyota was in the like mid 2000s, and it was a Tacoma, and my shop paid less than 10 grand for it new. And you get in it, and it's just essence of pickup truck. It's basic because it was a delivery vehicle. It was a fleet package truck, right? Radio, air conditioning, and not much else. You open the hood, and it's like, where's the rest of it? There's like nothing in there. And then my friend bought a Tundra around the same time, and strangely enough, it was like Tacoma plus P. Where's the rest of it? What the fuck, right? So he wants. We bought that back then, and that's only been what, 15 years, 16 years, and now a Tacoma with all the off-road stuff on it, 50 grand. He's like, what?
And
I'm
that's
sorry. Uh, Even the base model one is, I think, like upper 20s, right?
yeah.
In 15 years, my salary hasn't doubled, so why the hell did the vehicle prices double? What, my cost of living hasn't doubled. No, it probably has actually. But like my revenue hasn't doubled. So why did everything get so expensive around? I can't wrap my head around it.
Urban freaking yuppies who think they got to have the baddest 4x4 off road vehicle to get through
Yep.
their Sunday.
That's why the price of AKs is skyrocketing.
Well, I used to tease Toyotas. I was like, that's what you buy because you're too cheap to buy a Jeep. But truth be told, they are very capable.
I look.
I've driven a few. since then, and I've seen a few since then, and I can't deny that the quality has definitely come up dramatically. So maybe the asking price is a little less than asinine. I won't say it's reasonable, but he tried to buy one about 2 weeks ago. Couldn't get a loan from, or no, he said that he thought that he would go to his bank first because he's been with them for as long as he has and he could probably get a better rate. He applied. He couldn't get a response for them for 10 days. And I thought, that's a bit weird. And then they denied him. And I said, why did they deny you? And he goes, well, the they said that I didn't make enough money, although he reported that he made 65,000 that year. And then he said, then they also said that my credit history has no activity for 10 years, which is true. Because the last time he financed a vehicle was 10 years ago. The one he has now, he just bought outright as a CPO, but he bought it outright. So I thought, well, that kind of sucks. And then he goes, yeah, what's worse is the next place I try to apply for credit, they will ding my credit record and lower the number for another inquiry. And I thought, okay. I'm paraphrasing because George would have had like 50 fucks in there. So I hooked him up with my sales guy at the dealer. And he's up there today, and the first thing he did this morning was call me at about 8 a.m. And he goes, dude, you're not going to believe this. I said, what happened? He goes, I talked to your guy. He ran my credit, and he said, I don't understand why the hell nobody would work with you. He was like, let me see what I can find you. So he's been there since like 8 o'clock this morning. They only have one 4Runner TRD there. But he's checking every dealer in their network to see if he can find one and bring it to his shop so George can buy it. So hopefully this whole crusade of his to get a TRD Pro will finally come to an end, because he's never owned a car new from day one. He's always had to go used, very used, or in the last case, a 2-year-old CPO, which was in good shape when he bought it. But I think everybody wants new at least once, right? So,
Nope.
well, unless you're a Bronco owner, you don't want new. You don't want new. Now, I like the Bronco as a concept. I don't like the Bronco in practice. They had, I'm going to quote James May from Top Gear and the Grand Tour. A long time ago, he did an episode and he talked about Jags. And he talked about the era of Jag from the late 70s to the mid 80s when British Leyland owned it. And they used Lucas Electronics with arguably the worst rubber connectors in history. Because the metal in the connector would rot and turn green before the rubber would fail, which would fail, and you would have this car that has 30 miles of electronics that don't work. Now, I know from personal experience because I had an 86 XJ6, and that's exactly what happened to me too. But he talked about how Jag came up from the 30s and 40s and the post-war years, and how they dominated in racing with the XK120RR, I think it was. And then all of a sudden, it went Union and communist. British had a communist party in the 60s and 70s. And they were sort of in power. And Leyland had taken over, and the quality went to absolute shit. And he was complaining about the XJS, which is that long coupe with the big hood and the V12. And he talked about how great it looked. His dad had one. And when it was brand new, it ran beautifully. But within 3 years, it was a heaping pile of shit. And he goes, you had the perfect recipe for shepherd's pie, and then you turned around and made it with dog meat. You utter pillocks. And I thought, Ford did the exact same thing with the Bronco. They had the perfect recipe, and then they decided, let's just use the Explorer floor pan and just bolt a different body onto it. First mistake. Second mistake was, let's build it with a hardcore off-road manual transmission with a 7-speed crawler gear. Sounds good until you realize they only put it behind the 4-cylinder engine because they built it down to a price and it can't handle the torque of the twin-turbo V6. So if you get the V6, you can only get it with the finicky electronically shifted 10-speed automatic, which I don't hate that transmission. I like it in theory, but Ford made two different versions of it. GM only has one version of it, and it's a good one. The Ford one, the heavy duty is a good one, but they put the light duty one in the Bronco. So it breaks constantly. Next thing that's wrong with it, the steering racks fail instantly. Like there's a picture that I posted in our Trains, Planes, and Automobiles channel here today, and both wheels are towed out, kicked out in opposite directions. And the guy didn't even jump it. He was just on a trail and it broke. The rack broke, not the tie rod ends. The inside worm gear broke because they built it down to a price. Same thing for the canvas and the hard tops that they put on them. The guys who made the hard tops for the Bronco are the same company that makes the hard tops for all the Jeeps, the Wranglers and JKs, and they are also the same company that made the top for my Thunderbird. They're very well made as long as they're allowed to make it to their standard. Well, Ford told them, build it to this price. Guess what? They all leak. They don't fit properly. They're crap. The waffle pattern of the internal framing is already bowing out, and you can see it through the side panel of the roof. Like it looks like seeing ribs on a skinny person almost. So I had a friend who has more money than brains. He lives in Indiana, and he paid $199,950 for a Founders Edition Bronco. He was on a list, and they said, if we can get one, we'll call you. They called him. They took his money. He said, when can I pick it up? We don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You said you had one. Oh, it's here. You can come look at it if you want. He went to the dealer. It's sitting on the lot in an ocean of about 30 other Broncos with China marker on the side glass saying, do not sell, roof recalled, faulty. Every Bronco they had on the lot was sold and undelivered, and they took the buyer's money. Needless to say, he's pissed.
Oh, I would be.
So anyway, that's why I tried to talk George into a Bronco, but then the more I saw the problems start to creep up, we even went and test drove one. He liked it, but we test drove one with a canvas top, which strangely enough is the one that's least likely to leak, but it's the noisiest one on the road, which drove him nuts. So I talked him out of the Bronco. I told him, I said, you know what? I've been giving you shit about this Toyota thing. Go get it, because they're not bad. I just think they're overpriced. Like, realistically, I think you shouldn't have to pay more than like 45 grand for one, the TRD Pro. But you know what? People are willing to pay whatever they're willing to pay. Right now, if you have a higher end vehicle, you can fetch more money than the MSRP you paid for it. And a good example of this is my boss bought a Raptor 3 years ago. He paid 70 grand for it. It was in such demand back then that when he traded it in, it had 11,000 miles on it, and they gave him $111,000 trade-in for it. So he took it, and then he used that to buy an AMG G63 hot rod G-Wagon. That was $195,000. But because he had a $111,000 trade-in, he was only on the hook for about $80,000. Within 4 weeks, he was offered $249,900 for it if he sold it back to the dealer he bought it from. So guess what my boss did?
Sold it back to the dealer.
Goddamn right he did.
No,
So-
George are to take that green one.
Oh yeah. So you did see that one, okay? So yeah, he showed me a green one. It was a brand new 2022. It's specific. That color is specific to that year. The problem is after TT&L, it's 74,000. That's insane. Because I mean,
Well,
think about it. At the end of the day, you're gonna go out and like, I'll just use my boss as an example. He would go out to like his tennis club or his golf club, right? And he would pull up in his G-Wagon and his friends they'd all try to flex on each other. Let's just say George was invited. And they'd be like, "So George, what do you drive?" And he's like, "Oh, I paid $74,000 for a Toyota 4Runner." They would look at him and are like, "Are you fucking stupid? What a waste of money," right? Because they don't think it's worth it. They'd probably turn around and try to buy the Lexus variant for another 80 grand.
well,
Yeah, but George could have the. Go ahead, Scott.
the thing with the Toyotas are, if you compare them to some of the other vehicles, like the Tacomas,
Mm-hmm.
the Tacomas are actually affordable compared to building out like a Colorado or a new Ranger.
You're kind of right. You are kind of right. We looked at Tacoma TRD Pros, fully loaded, and I think they were like 53,
40, yeah,
48 to like 53.
yeah.
Now this is before the used market went crazy in the last couple of months, but you're right. You're on track. I
But
think
if you want
Squib paid
Colorado
close to
diesel,
60 for his Colorado.
yeah, if you want the Colorado with the diesel, you're talking minimum
It's a lot
50.
of yeah, it's crazy. And that's
And that's
without all the
Yeah,
options.
if George had bought that green one, the
Mm.
odds of him seeing another one just like it would have been substantially less
I think you're
than
right.
any other color.
You might be right. My boss ordered and bought another Raptor, by the way, and it is unique in the color. I think it's called palladium. No, antimatter blue. So he's got a unique one coming. And when he got the first one, it was gunmetal gray, and it had this really interesting blue piping on the interior, and carbon fiber bits everywhere, and little orange highlights. And I thought, wow, that's really cool looking. So I jokingly told him, I was like, "I'm really flattered that you bought my future retirement gift." And he kind of chuckled and laughed, right? And before he sold it, uh, I told him, I was like, I was really hoping, I did the whole retirement gift as a joke, but I was really hoping you would have kept it till you paid it off and then maybe sell it to me. Like, I wouldn't mind because he's not an abusive driver and it would have almost no mileage on it by the time he would sell it to me. And he said, "Well, if I knew you wanted it that bad, I would have offered it to you, but you would have had to have paid me all up front because I needed it to trade it in towards the other car I bought." So he's not indifferent to the idea, but he would request all the money up front, which I don't have because he doesn't pay me shit. And he knows that. And the other thing is he fucked George over so bad, man. Like, George has worked for him for 20 years. And from what I understand, they had this conversation. It was pretty deep about his future, about getting vehicles and whatnot. And my boss gave him kind of the cold shoulder. And he was like, "Look, if you don't like it, you can quit at any time." Like, really? You've been together for 20 years, and we watched your families grow up together, and you're going to just dismiss him that simply? What a greedy fucking twat. Anyway, that's enough. I've been tangenting. Shit. So, let's get into personal week in reviews. And this time, I am going to go first because guess what? I don't have shit this week. Like, I don't have shit I can talk about on air this week. But I had a bad week, and I'm going to do the same thing I did last weekend this weekend, which is preoccupy myself to the point of exhaustion so I can sort of not have to deal with it. So that was my week in review. I didn't do anything. Actually, you know what? I got to take that back. I did do an episode on that Swiss Products scope mount. That's already been out. I think I put it out last Sunday. Because I didn't do the Swedish Mauser episode. If I have time, I promise I'll try to do it tomorrow. But I got that, and later today I have to go pick up an original Remington 1858 Army. And that's going to be one major This Old Gat episode. It's probably going to be a two-parter because what I'm picking up looks like it was pulled off the deck of the Lusitania. Like, it is just one big blob of orange rust. And I've got to try to figure out if it's salvageable, and if it is, then I have to do a full resto, and then for the first time, I'm going to have to actually rust blue it with a chemical agent, which I've never done before. I've usually just re-rust blued the existing finish. Well, this one ain't got one. It's all orange. So that's what I got to do later today. Go pick that up. So that's my week in review. You guys jump in and take your time and go ahead and explain yours.
Oh, I see. Me first again. Okay.
I went first.
I basically went on Amazon early in the week and dropped $2,000. Did the early watch 3 times, which was great,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's with Jimmy.
Mm.
Uh, and now I'm just waiting for shit to get here.
What about your
We
road
did the
trip?
early watch last week.
Yeah.
You
I
forgot about
try
the
to
road
keep that
trip you
shit,
took.
block that shit out of my
How
memory.
about
Oh
what?
yeah,
Oh, hell, that's right. I wasn't here last weekend, was I?
Mm-hmm.
We went down to Arkansas to look at property. And as we're going down there, I plug in GPS. I want to go to uh, Mammoth Spring, Arkansas. And it takes me down through the Missouri Ozarks. And I'm driving down these roads, which I'm surprised they weren't just fucking gravel. Uh, we come into some bottoms, and there's a damn sign that says roads impassable during under high water.
Mm-hmm.
And then behind it's a ruler, 6 feet tall, with the marking so you can see how deep it is. And on about the third or fourth one of these things we go across, I'm thinking, this is the stupidest goddamn GPS route I've ever seen. If it rains, you get trapped.
Mm-hmm.
And then the property was kind of unsuitable, although I'm thinking about calling them with the offer. The missus said we should probably do that. As far as I can remember, that's about it.
I mean, that was a lot. It's a lot of driving. It's a lot of looking. It's a lot of inquiries, and you still came home and managed to pick up some of the equipment and tools you're going to need when you do find a place. So I mean, that's a pretty fulfilling week.
Yeah, it was busy. I mean, we're trying to get our ducks in a row as early as we possibly can for when she can retire.
Sure.
Uh, Normally, I let on like I don't do shit ever, but that's image. I just don't do shit rarely.
All right. Jimmy, you want to jump
Or I,
in?
I started a garden.
Really?
what?
Yeah, we were talking a bunch of shit on Friday about because I had to go to Home Depot or not Home Depot, Walmart,
Ah,
and get a shit hose
yeah.
because the dog ate it. So while I was back there, I noticed that the area where the fucking I guess it's not necessarily where the septic tank pump is at, but where it actually like filters into it or whatever the fuck where the hose plugs into.
Mm-hmm.
Right next to it, there's about 10 feet of like just fucking out, just a rectangular, perfect rectangular space. So I started digging it out, and I'm gonna put like some tomatoes in there. I don't know what else. I'm gonna grow some weed in there too. Um,
Ah.
and yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what all I want to put in there. My girl wants to put squash in there, but I'm not a big fan. I don't know, but it started though.
Okay, so there's a phallic joke in there, but I was gonna say I see you too are a man of culture because I don't know if you know this about me, but I too am a farmer.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. I am a lead farmer.
Oh.
No,
Awesome.
I grow I know this sounds really weird. Like I think most of you guys know I'm not wired like most people. So, uh I did grow tomatoes last year, but this year the weather wasn't permissive. It was way too hot for way too long. Um I grew a couple of soy plants because I just like the leaves on them. So it was just more for looks. And I grew, now this is where it's going to get awkward. I grew gardenias, orchids, and hibiscus. And it's not because it's, I'm good at it for some reason. It's like, you remember in Demolition Man where Sylvester Stallone wakes up and he apologizes to Lenina Huxley and he was like, I'm sorry about last night. Here, I made you this. And he made her like a sweater or whatever. And she's like, did you make this? He's like, yeah. And he didn't know why he knew how to sew. Well, I always make fun of my mom for being a brown thumb, and so like every time she takes on gardening, I'm always following behind her after she fucks everything up, and then I fix it. So like, I got pretty good at it, and I picked. Somebody gave me a Christmas gift one year called the Language of Flowers. So like, if you guys really want to impress your girl, um, put them like you know how they have that cliche thing of candlelight dinners and Sade and you put fucking flowers on the bed or whatever? Use orchids. You'll thank me later. Go read the Language of Flowers about orchids. Remember what it means, and when she sees it, tell her what they mean, and then prepare to get raped. Just saying. So, yeah, it has a good use, and it's kind of therapeutic. My friend, on the other hand, Richard, he uses the entire second floor of his house as a giant grow room. And each room is used in different ways. So he has like a hydroponics room. He has one where it only takes LED lights, stuff like that, right? So he grows like 4 or 5 different strains of weed. And then he's got one room where he grows all his vegetables. And it's amazing. Like I walked in and it was like a jungle in the house. No bugs, no nothing. Temperature controlled, ventilation, everything. Beautiful. He was growing tomatoes upside down, like the hanging thing that goes over the side.
Yeah.
He said
No shit.
he was telling me that there was some like nutritional benefit from gravity gardening. I think he called it. So like, dude, if you're gonna do that, fucking go with God, man. It's gonna be awesome. Like, it's gonna
Yeah,
be
I'm gonna try
frustrating at
that.
first.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely try it. I'm doing the outdoor one first, but we do have that. There's like the property is kind of split up into two, so there's like a trailer,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to see if I can use that. I don't know who I got to talk to see if I can use that, but
Mm.
that's gonna be my little indoor operation.
That's cool. Like if you have a
Yeah, that's
neighbor that
gonna
you're
be all
sharing
right.
space with, just be like, "Yo, I'm thinking about doing this. You cool with it?" And if they say yeah, sky's the limit.
I'll give you some of my crops.
There you
Indoor
go.
operation. We're still talking about gardening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We are
yeah,
from
but
Chicago, so
that's gonna be the yeah. Nah, but that's gonna be like the hydro stuff and all that shit. The
And
inside lights, but you don't need halogen anymore.
right.
Apparently, that's what I heard.
hell, you can use LED.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I'm thinking that I still got to go out and get halogen lights and mercury lights and all this weird shit. And nah, I
Man,
don't.
Jimmy's like trying to be like the second coming of fucking Beastie Boys. He's gonna be like cops trying to snatch my crops.
Better send me a bail, you prick.
Right?
Yeah, I will. And I'm gonna have tomatoes though, but I think I'm doing cherry tomatoes for sure because I used to eat those when I was a kid.
Good snack. Very good snack.
I'll tell
Yeah,
you what, it is very satisfying to go pick a fistful off a freaking plant and eat them.
Yeah.
eat it right there. Yeah, I know.
I think I told Tony this story, but my neighbor had 3 peach trees in her backyard. And the thing that she told me, because I was curious, even growing up about gardening a bit, so I was like, "Do you have any advice for me if I do this?" And she says, "Make sure you pick everything you can while you can, because you'll never get it all, and then you have to deal with rotten things on the ground." And she showed me the peach trees. And then she proceeded to show me what happens, when harvest time came. And she was right. You can't get them all because some of them grow too high, and then you can't get to them until they fall off. By the time they fall off, they're kind of fermented and half, soft and rotten.
So what you
Ev-
get is dry pearls.
every animal that would either live in her backyard or crossed it was drunk. Her labs were drunk. The squirrels were drunk. The birds were drunk. The possum was on his back drunk because fermented peaches is basically free schnapps. She was like, "This
Nothing
is the
wrong with
problem."
that.
She told me, she's like, "This is the problem." Like, damn. I should grow agave. All
Proof that
right.
nature has a sense of humor.
Scott, did you have anything monumental this week? I saw you picked up a few things.
Yeah, I did get a Chinese-made 12-gauge shotgun. That's an AK. It's a little weird. It's getting mixed reviews. It was cheap. I also
was it
ordered.
that? Scotty, was it that VR60 or VR80 or whatever?
S12.
VS12. Okay, cool. Is that's Rock Island?
No, the JS12.
The
JT
JS12.
rather.
Yeah, his looks
Uh,
like an AK. Those
yeah,
VR60s are kind of AR looking.
AR. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Brandon Herrera did a video on it like a week or two ago. I also got a legit EOTech for a really good price.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Well, the joke now, or the challenge for you, since you're an AK guy, and like you already know, but I'm gonna tell these two. You have to buy one Fostech Echo trigger for an AK. Put it into your shotgun one, and grab some like Brennicky 3-inch Magnum slugs, and see if you can even stay upright mag dumping that thing. Like, lean against a wall if you have to when you take the shot, but Jesus, I gotta see that. Anyway,
Don't forget the video camera.
exactly. Make sure your camera's on, because I want to giggle out of that one. Like, we're going turkey hunting, and I brought a shotgun with an echo trigger. It's like,
That's nice. Hey, Scotty, you got the black stock or the wood stock?
It only comes with polymer.
Oh, okay.
so imagine, if you will,
Fitted
Scott's
wood.
going turkey hunting with this AK shotgun with an echo trigger, with Warwolf Ordnance quadruple-aught buck shells. He sees a fat tom turkey, and he just mag dumps. The first shot hits the turkey, knocks him over, and every shot after debones and defeathers it. And then he was like, "Well, I guess it's turkey tartare then. Fuck it." All right. So anyway, we're already halfway through. Okay, I want to do the news the news because we're abbreviated today. I got shit to do, and I just thought of something else that I got to add to my list and figure out how I'm gonna get that done before I get in the car. So, first story. Now, I'm going to admit I didn't read the details too much because I know that Tony read this story far more than I did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up, and Tony, if you could, just knock it down for me. But the way I worded it was, add negligent homicide to the list of stupid shit Alec Baldwin has done in his life. Because he took a prop gun, supposedly it was a prop gun, it was actually hot loaded with real ammo, and he was filming a movie called Rust, I believe it is, and that in one of the scenes that they were getting ready to film, he has to have essentially like a negligent discharge, right? Like that's the way the scene is supposed to play out. And I don't know if he was playing along with the scene or if he was dry run practicing it during takes or what. I don't know the details, and I think you do, but it left the director, one of the directors, killed and another one wounded. Which makes me wonder, was it one shot that went through the first person and hit a second? Or was this guy so stupid that he hit the trigger twice, completely negating the 4 rules of firearm safety?
Well, honestly, I don't know because I didn't go into it. I suspect that they wanted this negligent discharge to be pointed directly at the camera
Okay.
so that the camera could pick up the gun going. And in the act of shooting the camera, people got shot.
Okay.
But this is speculation on my part, period.
Yeah, see, I would think that if you're going to fire at a camera like that, they have like robo camera setups, right? So you can put them up there and have it arranged in such a way where there's nobody standing next to it. It's remote control. I mean, technology is a good thing. That's why you use it. But
Don't need it if you're shooting blanks.
well, yeah. So I think there's too many factors here that are at fault. Number one, the armorer on set didn't check, clear, or greenlight the weapon. The actor, who is staunchly anti-gun and radically liberal, didn't press check the gun himself. Probably doesn't really know how to use one because he doesn't like them.
Yeah, he probably don't know the difference between a blank and a live round anyway.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so Tony and I talked about this. Hollywood does guns 3 ways. They have real guns with blank ammunition that are converted. They have model guns that can only be used to fire blanks. Think of like a Trainer Arasaka with like a cast receiver, that kind of thing, like a pot metal gun basically. They do that. And the third one is they use very well detailed rubber dummy guns because you need to hold them, but the scene doesn't require you to shoot them. And yet,
Well, yeah, if you're gonna pistol whip somebody or something like that, they use the
yeah,
rubber guns. Yeah.
exactly. So it's like, where'd the live ammo come from? Like, it should have never even been an option for all 3 of those choices. And yet, the last time this happened in Hollywood, Brandon Lee was killed.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. And from what I heard, Brandon Lee's was a barrel obstruction, and then the gas pushed out the thing. I
Yeah.
don't know if they used live ammo,
No,
but
it was whatever was in the barrel came out and hit him.
yeah. But now this case, it's confirmed that it was live ammo.
Live ammo, supposedly.
What the
It was a
fuck?
squib load.
Oh, hey, look, it's Squib.
You notice?
He would know. It's in his name. All right, so
So it was a 44 revolver, and they were firing live ammo out of it,
I gotta fix this volume.
offset, for whatever, practice, training, personal use, whatever it was.
Sure.
And they had a squib, and a bullet got lodged down the barrel,
Huh.
and they didn't know because it was the last round they fired.
Ah.
And then they loaded blanks in it, didn't check the barrel or anything else like that. Why?
Yeah.
Put blanks in it, and the pressure from the blank sent the bullet down the barrel
Mm-hmm.
and into Brandon Lee's chest, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think I think that's how I remembered it too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. But
That
now, how
almost sounds
did the
like-
live ammo get into this situation though?
I'm not sure. Now, in New Mexico, staff that work on the set, if they have a carry license, they can bring their own personal weapons with them on set. I know that much. But I still think this is a big failure on the part of the crew's armorer, the casting and the crew's armorer. There's an armorer on set
Supposed to
almost
be.
for every use of firearms, especially if you film firearms in a certain country or a certain state. It's required. Like, there has to be a guy who's licensed for this. Like, even for instance, if they did like a documentary where it involved a fully automatic machine gun, there has to be a class, what is it, 7 SOT? There has to be an FFL 07 on staff that owns that gun, who has to be on site.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
like,
why.
who failed this one?
That's why the guy on TV there that owns the Hollywood prop house with all the machine guns
Hmm.
makes a lot of money.
Yeah, because he's
Yeah.
got to maintain that FFL 07 too, and that's expensive.
Well, you would figure too they would have some kind of an expert on there too if they're specifically filming a negligent discharge. Like, you would want to have an
Yeah.
expert on there, and I
To
don't know.
sort
That's
of-
just kind of stupid.
Well, see, a negligent discharge is the easiest thing to catch on camera because you never expect when it's going to happen. So the look of surprise on the shooter's face is genuine. I've only ever had one in my lifetime, and frighteningly enough, it was with my 44 Magnum, and I shot the target, the mechanism that brings the target forward and backward. I shot it because the trigger on my competitor, I had set it so light that when I had my finger around the trigger guard and I clicked the cylinder closed with my right thumb or my left thumb, it bumped the trigger against my other finger, and it was just enough to make it go off. And I was like, okay, I got this a little bit too light. Scared the shit out of me. All right, so we got through that one. Baldwin does seem genuinely shook up by this too. I don't think it was intentional. I know he's kind of a off the handle kind of guy these days, but I truly believe, I'm an optimist when it comes to humanity, and I think this is a very tragic accident. He's still going to be hit with culpable homicide or negligent homicide? He's gonna have to face something because he was still holding the gun and he didn't know the 4 rules of firearm safety, and he should have. There's no excuse for that, not at all. All right. So, continuing in our theme of farewells, goodbyes, and eulogies, when I got home from work yesterday, there was news that somebody had passed minutes after I got home. Like it hit my feed, and the story was only 3 minutes old. And so, uh, for some of you who follow Taofledermaus channel, you may have gotten to know the shooters he has on the channel. So like he has Officer Greg, and then he's got like this younger guy who's like a retired Marine who's a incredibly good shot with a very good attitude. And then you probably met a guy that they used to call Deadeye Danny, and he had like a bit of a red Santa Claus beard. You can tell he was a bit of an older guy, and he's got the miles to prove it. But man, I gotta tell you, that guy could hit the balls off of a fly, like in motion. That guy can hit anything. That's where he got his nickname Deadeye Danny. Well, anyway, for those of you who may not know, he passed away yesterday. And it came as a shock to everybody, including Jeff, actually, because nobody saw it coming. And I believe he was only 66, if I'm not mistaken, which made me think, wow, that guy had some miles on him to look like that at 66. But yeah, if you didn't know, Deadeye Danny from the Taofledermaus channel has passed yesterday, and I think they're talking about doing like a tribute video, and I'm pretty sure they're going to talk about like funeral arrangements and stuff. But realistically, it's probably going to be private for family. He'll probably get to go, but kind of sucks. I really liked the guy. You know, he would do a video, and you can comment on Jeff's video, and Danny would still take the time throughout his day to reply to every single message. Like if you were cool, he was cool with you. And it just seems like the kind of guy that you would go to the range with and shoot until your hands were numb, and then the first thing he'd be like, "Hey, cool, let's go out and get a beer. It'll cool off that sting in your hand." Like he was that kind of guy, I think. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about him, like ever. All right, we'll go on to the next one. I wanted
No,
to
I
put that
just,
out
yeah,
there.
I was just watching one of his videos. He did the one video with them too, where they did the what was the split point 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just watching one of his videos like last week. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was like a I think they did that because of Red Dead Redemption 2 where you can take your knife and cut the grooves in, and they wanted to sort of simulate that and see if it worked. And I think it did, right? Like it had an effect.
Oh, it was more destructive than the hollow point was.
Yeah. And I think the only drawback was is if you didn't cut it clean and even, then it would sort of veer, but you know, it's not bad.
It would that was a problem, and there was also it wouldn't penetrate very far.
Right.
It would fragment into little pieces.
Yeah. All right, so part 3. Um I called this one Dirty Laundry, which I guess you know what that means. Earlier this week, the supposed area of this nature reserve that was underwater, the water had receded to a certain point, and the Laundrie family contacted the FBI and said, "Hey, this area of this reserve that our family would go camping to pretty often is accessible. Maybe we would go out there with you guys and take a look around because we know that area pretty well because we camp there often." So the FBI came and collected them. They went straight to this place, and within 5 minutes, they found Laundrie's backpack, his notebook, and human remains. Now, here's the weird part. This isn't I told you so. Because the human remains are incomplete as far as I was aware. But with what they did find, a jawbone, they were able to use dental records and identify that, yes, this was Brian Laundrie. So now, the I told you so part is if this piece of human garbage was actually in there, don't be surprised if you don't find him as a pile of alligator shit. And guess what? It's an incomplete body. So somewhere downriver, there are going to be what they call boluses, which are basically just turds, and I bet the rest of them is in there. But now
God,
the
I hope
question is,
so.
yeah, me too. Like
Either that or a python.
I actually talked to my mom about this yesterday, and she goes, "Well, it may not be justice, but at least he suffered." And I looked at her and I said, "I'm not so sure." And she goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Imagine if he was camping out near that river, sleeping, and an alligator bit down and death rolled him into the water. First of all, the bite wouldn't register in his brain. Like, if you've ever been shot, or if you've ever been in an accident where you took a very hard hit, your whole body goes numb, like dead numb for that instant. And I would
Jimmy,
imagine,
can you concur?
like,
What?
I said, can you concur? Because you're the only one of us I know have been shot.
What about it?
that you just, when it, on, upon impact, it's just instant, like, numbness. And then the pain
I
sets
didn't.
in
I,
later.
I didn't. I didn't notice that. Yeah, I didn't notice that I got shot until I started telling the story to one of my friends and saw blood dripping, and he told me that my arm is bleeding,
Mm,
and then I went into shock almost immediately.
mm. So, like, for this
Okay.
guy to get bitten by a gator, death rolled into a creek, I think the first thing that registered in his mind was he was drowning before the pain set in. Because once you're in under murky water in the dark, you don't know what's going on. You just know that you can't breathe because you're underwater. And if he managed to struggle away, he'd bleed out from a missing leg or something. So, like, maybe he suffered, but not as much as if I got my hands on him. That's all I'm saying. Like, Tony knows. I was like, man, if this guy tried to walk backwards across the Texas Mexico border to get away from the law and I ran into him on the way here, it would be like a freaking that scene from Law Abiding Citizen. He'd be on a gurney. I'd be sitting there with a 4-inch circular saw just taking bits off on camera and giving him adrenaline to keep him going and like searing the wound shut to keep him together as long as possible. And it'd be like, that's justice. That's the justice that that girl deserves. But now there ain't no justice because he technically opted out, didn't he? So right now the FBI is considering legal consequences for the family. How much did they know? How much did they aid and abet him? This is what they're going to start doing. And if you remember, it's like 3 weeks ago on this show, I said, grab the parents, take them to Gitmo, and beat 7 levels of hell out of them to get the answers. They're going to do it legally now, but you see what I'm saying? Like, none of this added up. They took him right to the body,
They had to have known he was there.
sort of.
Oh yeah.
So for
Oh
me,
yeah.
what I would love is the father gets interrogated to the point where he cracks and said, I took him out there and killed my own son. I did not raise him to be what he is, and you cannot tell me what to do with him because I was his father. And to quote Bill Cosby, I brought him into this world and I can sure as hell take him out. And you know what? He might go to jail for what would you call it? A crime of passion, but I think the majority of public opinion would say, well, he's still got to live with that the rest of his life that he had to take his own son's life. And he did it for what most people would say was a good reason. So like if that comes out in the next couple of weeks, just don't be surprised.
See,
Honestly.
if I was the dad, I would have just said I gave him a 300-month abortion.
767th trimester abortion, yeah.
I think he killed him. I still think he killed himself.
Well, they haven't released cause of death yet, but it's just a matter of time.
I'm pretty sure.
All right, I got to keep moving because we're almost out of time already. Like, I got shit to do. I'm going to touch on this one really quick just because I'm not too familiar about it. But the state Supreme Court in Pennsylvania has ruled that citizens of Harrisburg can now sue for damages for violations of their gun rights, even if they haven't committed a crime in the city that they're fighting against. Now, I'm conflicted about this. If you do the crime and then you have to go to trial, you have due process and you're allowed to fight you're allowed to face your accuser and fight for your freedom. However, in this case, you can just be a gun carrying Karen in a way, right? And run around screaming, shall not be infringed, and then take them to court because you're like, I'm suing you because you said I can't carry my gun outside of my house and I can only shoot it at the range, and that's bullshit. They now have the legal levity to do that. They can sue for that now. Instead of trying to sue to get these bad laws taken out, they can sue the city for monetary damages. Kind of
Well,
How
cool.
much of this
State
do you
preemption
think
law.
is? How much of this do you think is? To use Scott's word, preemption against future laws.
Well, see, that's my concern. Say they let this go and they let people do this. What other laws, gun control, abortion, whatever, will they start to allow the same way? Like,
Texas already did it with abortion.
no. Like, for instance, let's say I had a girlfriend that I got pregnant and she went and she had an abortion. And before she went, I sued her to prevent her from doing it. You see what I'm saying? Like, she hadn't even done it yet. Now, if I took that to court, the judge would look at me and go, "You're crazy. Get out of my court. You're just betting this on an assumption." Right? And it's like, it's almost similar to the gun control thing. It's like, we know that you have to carry your gun outside of your house to get to the range in the first place. So if we pulled you over on the way to the range, we can't prove you weren't headed there, so cops aren't going to go harassing you for it. You know, because what I'm assuming is people are getting harassed carrying their firearms when they're not headed between home and the range, where the only two places they're allowed to have them in Harrisburg. And I thought, lame. But you see what I'm saying? They can stretch this out into so many tangents, much like my intro this morning, and muddy it
Are
up
you sure?
and screw it all up.
Are you sure about this whole Harrisburg thing? Because I've open carried in Harrisburg.
It says
Yeah.
Harrisburg citizens can challenge gun control laws without even having to violate them first.
We went to a restaurant with long guns and sidearms
Yeah.
and sat down in a restaurant in Harrisburg with our guns. Nobody said anything.
When?
So it says the plaintiffs have legal standing to take on the Harrisburg City gun ordinances. At issue are local laws with criminal penalties for discharging a gun outside of a range, possessing guns in parks, failing to report lost or stolen weapons within 2 days, or unaccompanied children having firearms outside of their homes. Like, those are just a few of the examples.
That's more specific.
Right. But I'm just saying,
Those
they're
are
picking hairs to split if they want.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the person paying the bill is the taxpayer. This doesn't resolve anything.
Right.
It's like if the school screws up and you sue the school district,
Yeah.
the administration gets to keep their jobs.
Right. Yeah, they don't resign, do they?
I still think it's a preemptive thing.
Yeah, Pennsylvania has gun law
Okay.
preemption.
Well, we'll see how that plays out in the long run, but I think you guys are spot on about what does this open for Pandora's box otherwise. That could be a dangerous thing, and it could be for something other than gun control. Wow, we almost made it a full hour before my dogs lost their damn minds. Can you hear that?
Nope.
All right, so I got to do this last one quickly because, like I said, I got shit to do. Let me find the story. Here it is. This man needs to be an amateur boxer. There was a robbery in progress in Arizona at a gas station a couple days ago. And this guy, who was a retired Marine, saw, I think it was what he said was 3 suspects walk into this store. And he recognized that only the first one had a gun. And he said that the Marine Corps taught him not to fuck around. So I want to show you this video because I find it fascinating. You're going to see this man look over, identify, push the gun away with his left hand, at the same time throw the perfect right hook. I'm a boxer. I know what it looks like. It was glorious. The guy didn't even see it coming. And the dude who follows behind him, he ran like a cockroach when the lights turned on. He couldn't even get his feet out from under him. He wanted to get away so bad. So just take a quick look at this. So you're going to get a good laugh at this. So here he comes. And get that shit out of here. Bang. Look at that guy. The guy couldn't even make it out the door on his feet. He fell over like I said, like a cockroach with the lights turned on. And this wasn't this is so much better than good guy with a gun. This was good guy with balls the size of cannons, you know? I mean, it was just like he wasn't going to screw around. The robber never saw it coming. He didn't think anybody in their right mind would go for the gun and even take a shot at him. Figuratively speaking. Gotta
You're
watch that
failing
again.
to think
It's
of
gorgeous.
the
Here we go.
dark side of these
Here it is.
optics.
Well,
Because this is a perfect liberal ploy for saying, see, you don't need a gun.
Well, what blew my mind is when the guy walks in, right? I'm hitting the replay button a few times. When the guy walks in, he pulls the gun and points it towards the clerk, which pushes it right past this guy's face. And he still pushed the gun out of the way and threw the hook. Like, who does that?
The gun was out of his face.
Sean, it's called combat hitting skills.
Yeah. No, I'm thoroughly impressed.
Boxing is part of what they teach. It's not like professional boxing, but it is. They integrate it into the combat hitting skills training that we get and that we periodically update so that we have some sort of hand-to-hand, because you go from your rifle to your sidearm to your bayonet to your fighting knife to anything you can pick up, your Kevlar or rock, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And then you go to your fists last, or your fist, your feet, or whatever else you've got. And it's about speed, and it's about shock and awe, and it's also don't show any fear and just do what you have to do. But Tony, I'm not playing that advocate crap, but there are times where your fists or your hands are a much better option than a gun. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the right to carry that gun or have it as an option. But I can tell you there are situations where you can do a lot more with your hands than you can drawing your firearm. And
I don't doubt that.
There are a lot of people out there who don't know how to fight. I'm not saying you've got to be some sort of karate expert, but they have absolutely no fighting experience or no fighting skills.
They don't see it coming.
And situations where you can't get to your firearm, or you can't get to it fast enough, or you don't have it on you. And if you're just some slob who thinks, well, I carry a gun, I'm invincible, well, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah. No, I mean, that guy totally didn't see it coming. And I think that's the advantage that this guy took. He was like, he's not going to see this. He thinks that because he's holding the talisman that he is invincible and no one would dare question his authority. And boy, was he in for a shot. He knocked the guy out in one shot. He was on his back. And I'm just like, I bet the first words out of that clerk's mouth were, "Thank you for your service," because that was amazing.
It was a pretty hook, I'll give him that.
It was textbook. Like,
those are your tax dollars being well used.
Yeah, they taught me that punch, and it took me weeks to master it, because you have to get your feet right, you got to shift your weight right, and you got to get your balance perfect, and then you got to throw the rotation of your elbow and your shoulder into it. That dude threw it like it was second nature. Like, he did it as easy as he can breathe. And I thought, that man is in the wrong line of work. Like, that dude needs to be in a ring. Someone needs to represent him, because you can't let a talent like that go to waste. That was just glorious. I'm an amateur boxer. I saw that and I was like, there's a talent there. Like, that is a form that an amateur just doesn't do. You learn that. Like you said, you were taught that. And he's good at it. Anyway. So, I'm sorry to do this to you guys, but I have to play this now, because we did get through over an hour, and I really wanted to do what you're going to do for the rest of the week, but I have got to be out of the door, man. Like, if you knew what my itinerary looks like, I'm sorry. I promise you, normal service will resume next week for Saturday. Also, be sure to tune in for the early watch on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. If you want to join this show or be part of my panel or just part of our lobby, email me in the link in the description below. It is legit. I do answer them. And just leave your name from Gun Channels if I don't recognize your new one. I'll send you an invite. It's good forever, so if you don't catch it for a couple of days, you can still use it. And I think that's all I've got. So I want to take... Huh?
Unless you're Mr. Knives.
Yeah, because he can't get it to work. But anyway, I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. Later.